Chapter 11. Forgiveness. Can you imagine? Peter was not prepared to see this play. He should have read the synopsis. He should have found a recording. Peter was not prepared to see this play. He should have known when the curtain rose and introduced the main protagonist, a thief being released from prison. He should have known when the main antagonist was a detective inspector. Jean Valjean sings his heart out in a battle with himself over his morality, over his soul. He escapes. He makes a new life for himself. He's a good man. He's a better man than the inspector who lives by the letter of the law with no regard to the humanity of it. What makes a good man? He turns himself in, rather than letting another take the fall for his crimes. He goes back to prison for life. Peter will never forget that day in the empty apartment. He'll never admit it, but he knows. He knows he would have never caught Neal Caffrey a second time if the other man hadn't given up, if the con man's heart hadn't gotten in his own way. And then he escapes under the guise of death and becomes the father of a little girl. Peter loses his grip on his composure as that little girl sings. Elizabeth holds his hand and passes him a handkerchief. Then there is a revolution, and while infiltrating the rebellion on behalf of the government, the inspector is exposed. His nemesis is there. They'll execute him. The thief wins after so many years. He stands over the man that has pursued him his whole life with the sole intention of putting him behind bars. He saves his life. And then the inspector kills himself. Peter was not prepared to see this play. Peter watches his phone ring and lets it go to voicemail. He'll answer if there's anything urgent in the voicemail, but Neal's just been asking after him during his recovery. Peter feels bad about ignoring him, but he just can't face him yet. It had sunk in with the myriad of medications dripping through his IV during those long days in the hospital, that Neal Caffrey was not the man Peter thought he was. What Anderson had told him, as completely unbelievable as it was true. It had to be. Peter remembers it. The bathroom, the pain, the blood. And Neal's eyes had been green. He remembers more than the school. Neal Caffrey be damned. The snapping of a bone breaking. He did it to himself. What kind of man can do that to himself? Not the kind of man that Peter has for years believed Neal to be. I will kill our way out if I have to. They twisted that knife. The knife that was meant for Peter, not Neal. Oh, Peter, it takes so much more than that to kill me. Peter doesn't know what kind of man Neal is. Not anymore. Not in his entirety, at least. And yet, you're Neal Caffrey now, and I'm Peter Burke. Capiche? That knife, that beating, that was meant for Peter. Neal swapped their IDs and took his gun. He knew what he was doing. He knew who was pounding down those doors. Neal's the kind of man that would take a knife for the man who would put him in prison. And for Peter? For Peter, that's enough. Jason didn't call for a cab home from work, but there Mozzie is when he walks out anyways. He doesn't bother prostrating and slides into the front seat. So, Mozzie says, pulling out onto Broadway. Lian's father. He's a bit absent, wouldn't you say? Jason groans in frustration. Why are you still harping on about this? You don't think I can handle my own business? I think, his driver says, that you have a history of letting yourself be taken advantage of. Which brings us back to my point. Where's your father, Neal? 6 years, and he's never bothered to see you? He's dead, Moz. Jason snaps. What? Lian said he was missing. Lian doesn't know. So you're just lying to her? How am I supposed to tell her this? He could still be. Jason swallows. I can't put her through that. Not when there's still a chance he's out there. Is he alive or not? I don't know. I need a name, Mozzie says, pulling out his phone with one hand and typing. A real one, preferably. I can't tell you that. Let me be clear. I am finding your man, Mozzie retorts. What's his name? And his last known location? You can't find him, Moz. Jason sighs. Try me. I can find anyone on planet Earth. I'm not doubting your skills. It means a lot. You don't have the tech. You can't find him. You aren't a spook, Mozzie states, glancing at him with that unparalleled calculating analyzation. Jason has no idea what he's going to say next. You're a mask. Jason laughs. He knows he should deflect. He doesn't give a shit. Only you, Moz. Which one? Please, Jason scoffs, as if I'd make it that easy. Mozzie squints, turning and eyeing him up and down. Robin, he decides. This is fucking ridiculous. First one or second one? Second. Jason sulks. Mozzie narrows his eyes. So you didn't die then? No. Jason grimaces. I did. I got better, though. Who's your partner? Tell you what, Moz. He pats his friend on the shoulder. You figure it out. And? Oh, there's no and. Jason smirks. You figure it out. Peter's received a lot of visitors while recovering from his injuries. The knock on his door is hardly a surprise, but the man behind it is. He wasn't expecting a visit from Philip Kramer. It's not an unwelcome visit, until Peter realizes that his old mentor isn't actually there to inquire after him. No, what he wants is to pick Peter's brain for information about Neal. He realizes very quickly that the intention is not in his informant's interest. It irritates him that Kramer thought he wouldn't notice. The Washington agent is looking for something. Something to block Neal's potential commutation. Whatever Kramer thinks he's going to find, Peter's going to find it first. Neal Caffrey will be free. It's always awkward when family drama gets mixed up in a case, like their current one, where the wife of a foreign businessman reports a theft of hundreds of thousands of worth of jewelry from their high-rise apartment, only for the white-collar team to uncover that the husband's actually just given it to a mistress less than half his age. Yeah, that was a screaming match for the record books. Honestly, I feel bad for the wife, Diana says, while they clean up the conference room after the case is closed. Agreed. Jason hands her some papers. Here, Let's go with the other transcripts. It's just sad, really. It's more than just jewelry. That's her lifeline. She doesn't inherit anything else when he dies. It all goes to the son from the first marriage. Everything he gives away is literally her livelihood. And she's just been humiliated. It's gotta hurt that the girl is the age she was when he married her. I know it's legal, but it's disgusting. He comments. She could be his daughter. Hell, if he had kids young enough, she could almost be his granddaughter. Like an age difference of only 16 years between a parent and child. Damn, I walked right into that. Jason groans. I told you. 6 years. Diana interrupts. 6 years since you went to prison. You know what 9 minus 6 is? 3. She wouldn't have remembered you. Not after 6 years. Not when she couldn't have been any older than 3, and you claimed it didn't last long. What exactly do you get out of this? Jason asks, emotionlessly. Why do you keep doing this? What do you want from me? I want you to tell the truth, Neal. I want you to let us help you. I don't need help. You made Peter promise not to arrest her. That's not what this is about. Jason scowls, mind racing to come up with his next excuse, because apparently Diana Berrigan really does take after Peter too much, and once given a morsel of information, however unwittingly, will refuse to give it up until she gets to the absolute bottom. He'll have to distract her with something else. The only problem is that without Peter around, she has a tendency to distrust him. Her victim voice just makes everything worse. Neal. Diana moves across from him. What happened to you was nothing. He interrupts her. I'm not a victim of anything happening. What she did to you was wrong. I am not a victim, he repeats. Because Jade isn't my ex. We've never had any kind of relationship outside a brief stint as co-workers and co-parenting Lian. She kissed you in the middle of the office. This isn't believable, not even coming from you. Isn't that what makes it believable? Jason counters. If I wanted to make you believe a lie, I could. He laughs bitterly. The reason you don't believe me is because it's so much harder for me to tell the truth. I can't do this, he thinks, dropping his head down into his hands. I can't convince her of the truth. I'm not believable when I'm honest. She's going to get Peter involved and this whole house of cards will fall. A few more months. It was just supposed to be a few more months. Hey, she says, pulling out a chair and sitting down across from him. I know this is hard, Neal, but this isn't to hurt you. You have to let us help you. We can protect you, Neal. You and Lian both. I can't, Diana. He'll take... He cuts himself off. What do I do? How do I talk my way out of this? I'm not believable when I'm honest. Be dishonest. He knows exactly what will discourage Diana from her arithmetic. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't have to. Not when it'll get her off his back about his real age. A little truth, a little lie. That's what makes it real. They won't take your daughter, Neal. They will, he insists. Because she isn't mine. I was telling the truth. Lian has another father. Another father. Not a different one. Another one. Diana watches her friend across the table, mind racing around his admission, the words he'd used. They were specific, she knew. Neal was a master of words with an unparalleled vocabulary. He'd said exactly what he meant to. Who? Neal is silent. Who's her father? Neal trails off, swallowing thickly. He won't look at her. I had a partner before. Not exactly a partner in crime. He winces. Yeah, she was afraid he was going to say that. Please don't tell Peter. He asks her quietly. You know he wouldn't. Please, Diana. Trust me, he would never treat you any differently. I can't do it, Dee. I can't. I don't want him to know. I didn't want you to know. I don't want anyone to know. Please respect my choices here. Our team is safe, Neal. Jones, Peter, trust me. They're safe. They're safe for you, and I'm glad of it. But the safest secret is one never told, and I'm not willing to take that chance. Not when that committee could put me back behind bars. A chill goes up Diana's spine at the implications of Neal's statement. He still won't look at her. You have to let this go, Diana. Please. She nods, silently. She can wait. She has no intention of actually letting it go. You got me out of trouble today, Jason says aloud, standing on his balcony, a can of soda in his hand. You'd better not have a secret girlfriend or something somewhere, 'cause we're in it now. He laughs. Imagine that. Some chick nobody's ever heard of just showing up out of nowhere. What a legacy to leave. You'd think it was the funniest shit ever, wouldn't you? He bends forward, resting his chin on one arm bent over the railing, while the other dangles the can of soda over the edge. It's not their usual brand. It's not as good, either. The office is nearly empty, late one evening when Jason and Diana decide to hole up in the conference room with their paperwork. Jones is out in the van with some of the Harvard crew tonight. They've finally turned on the building's air conditioning, only it's set for the height of a miserable New York summer, and it's not actually hot enough outside yet to warrant the freezing temperatures blazing from the ceiling vents. The windows in the conference room are helping to keep it a couple of degrees warmer than the bullpen. It sort of reminds me of college, Diana muses. We used to study in the department's conference room before big exams. Yeah, Jason prods, scribbling on the back of an envelope to start his pen. It was fun, she continues. All that last-minute cramming. There was a sort of camaraderie to it. Camaraderie. He misses it. It had taken 2 long years to reach near that point with his FBI team. He hopes it'll last. It's this thought that Jason blames when Oliver Queen walks out of the elevator and into the white-collar unit 15 minutes later. Where is she? Maybe if it had taken you less than 5 months to notice she was missing, you would know, Jason retorts, calm and cheerful tone doing more to communicate his vitriol than raising his voice. Don't you dare. Oh, I assure you, I never do anything but. No, I will not tolerate this. Not when you and that woman went and conspired to kidnap her from school. Not when you've hurt my family again. Now, of all times. Kidnap her. You think Jade and I brought her here? He laughs acridly. Oh, Oliver. She was trafficked. An FBI team rescued her here in New York, and she came and found me since Roy told her I was working in the city. What? If only someone was checking up on her at school. I don't know, maybe someone who lives on that side of the fucking continent. Someone who was supposed to be looking after her while we were gone. Jason's masterful control of himself is threatening to slip, and he knows it. It's taking just about everything he has not to vault over the desk and deck Oliver Queen in the fucking jaw. But all those emails and Paris emails, your excuse for not noticing she was missing was that you got emails. I'm done talking. Where's Lian? I'm taking her home with me. No. Jason stands up. You aren't. You can't stop me. Oh, yes, I fucking can. She's my granddaughter. She belongs with her family. For how long, huh? Until she's a teenager and makes mistakes? That's all it takes to get kicked out of your family. You and I both know that it's different. What's different? 'Cause he was a boy and your son? You think I'll just let you take her? I don't trust you to raise a cat. Never mind Roy's kid, and neither does he. You can't just steal yourself a family. Oliver sneers. Why not? Jason asks with a laugh that's edging into manic. I stole Roy, didn't I? Don't you remember what I pulled him out of? Besides, didn't B ever tell you how he found me? I jacked the tires off his work car. I'd say stealing myself a family has worked pretty damn well, actually. She isn't your daughter. You have no right to keep her from me. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure of that. Whatever you and my son had, it sure as hell wasn't legal. Oliver hisses. You think an argument on legality is gonna work on me? No, you're right. I know exactly who you are. He takes a step forward. I know exactly who you are and what you've done and what you're capable of, and you are the last person who should be raising a child. Okay, Queen. You know exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. Do you imagine, then, that if you threaten one more time to take my child away from me, you would ever find us? Do you think you can threaten me? Do you think I could face Roy when he gets home and tell him that I let you take Lian? He isn't coming home. Yes, he is. He's dead, Jason. You can't keep this denial up forever. He's coming home, Jason insists. I'm not giving up on him like you always seem to. Hal's corpse found a debris field days ago, Oliver says, and Jason's world grinds to a sickening stop. It was them. They're gone. He isn't coming home, and you're not going to keep the last piece left of my son from me. Jason stares at him. Everything is quiet. They found a debris field, Jason whispers. His throat is tight. His eyes prickle with tears, and something in his chest aches. You didn't know? Oliver asks. Your family knows everything. Why would... His breath hitches. Why would Hal have told me? Oliver is silent, watching him. Jason doesn't know what he looks like, but whatever Oliver sees causes him to soften. The anger in his expression fades into something more hesitant, surprise, grief, and the barest edge of pity. Jason sucks in a breath and pinches his eyes shut against the tears, tilting his head back towards the ceiling. What did they find? He asks quietly. Can't they bring them home? Them. Corey, too. Corey's gone, too. He tries to breathe in again, but all he manages is a wet gasp. It's Corey, too, isn't it? It's all of them. The wreckage was extensive, Oliver says. Most of what's left is orbital, but there are traces planet-side. What state were they in? Jason, I have to know. He begs. Please, I know you hate me, but There's nothing, Oliver says, with a gentleness he never usually extends to Jason. Atmospheric re-entry. It's what he expected to hear, but it feels like someone is digging in between his ribs with a rusty knife anyways, stealing the air from his lungs. Oh, God. He chokes out and finally drops back into his chair. He lets his head fall into his arms on the table. Please, anything. Is Queen still talking? Jason doesn't know. He's not quite sure about anything beyond his heart pounding in his ears and... Roy's dead. They found a debris field. Roy and Corey are dead. They've been dead this whole time. They were already gone. He was never coming home. Then Diana is there, stepping in like an angel and taking over and saying something, and Oliver is gone when he lifts his head out of his arms. Neal, do you know where you are? Yeah, he chokes out. Okay, she says. Okay, Neal, come on. I'm going to take you home. June's house is dark when Diana drops him off. She offers to walk him in, but he declines. The stairs up to the apartment seem endless. Lian is at the top of them. She's probably asleep. He hadn't realized how late it had gotten. He hopes she's asleep. He hopes she's getting one more good night of sleep before he has to tell her. How is he gonna tell her? The dark hallway looms ahead of him. He shouldn't disturb her. He should just go into the flat and try to pull himself together. Because in the morning, he has to tell Lian, and he can't fall apart. He can't. But he has to see her. He has to see that she's okay, that she's there. She isn't asleep. She's reading by the light of her window. He really ought to buy her a flashlight. She'll damage her eyes, reading in such poor lighting. She looks up when he opens the door. He hopes he doesn't look how he feels and tries to smile at her. But Lian takes one look at him, and she knows. Somehow she knows. She must see it, and bursts into tears. Lian's finally cried herself to sleep on the couch. Jason stands on the balcony as the sky begins to pale with the idea of dawn, and dials. What do you want, Red? Roy's dead. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Does Lian know? Yeah. Jason replies. Lian knows. 2 days, Jade says, and hangs up. He stares at his dark phone for only a moment before dialing a number he's had memorized since he was 13. Dad, Jason says, I need out. This communication thing has got to go through, B. I can't do this anymore. I'll take care of it, Bruce promises. What happened, J-Lad? Oliver's here, Jason says. He wanted me to send Lian with him. I told him no, but he told me. The Lennon corpse found a debris field, Dad. It was atmospheric re-entry, Dad. He's gone. He's gone and I... Breathe, Jason. I don't want to, he whispers. I know, J-Lad. I know. But you have to. I don't know what to do. He takes a shuddering breath. What do I do? Nothing, his dad says. Just breathe, Jason. We'll take care of everything. Just hold on. Dick, Bruce greets when his oldest steps into the office. Please, sit down. I have unfortunate news. What happened, B? He asks, sitting down. The Lantern Corps found a debris field. It was the missing diplomatic team's ship. Dick sighs, posture slumping over. He runs a hand down his face. Damn, he curses. I mean, it's what I was expecting. But damn. He takes a deep breath. Does Jay know yet? He found out first, Bruce says. Oliver went to New York looking for Lian. Dick curses more creatively this time. Dick, I know how close you were to the team members. He pauses, watching his oldest son's face. What exactly was the relationship between Jason and Roy? Dick looks down at his lap. Neither of them told me this directly, but I'm pretty sure they were together. Bruce's heart breaks for his second son all over again. I don't know for how long or how serious it actually was before Jason went undercover and Roy left, but it was... Jason was invested, B. He really loved him. His oldest stands to go. I'm taking the next few days off, Bruce. I'll be in New York. Jason and Lian don't speak for the next day. Lian sleeps late the next morning, fitful but exhausted. Jason doesn't sleep. They stay in the apartment together in silence, shutters drawn against the disrespectful sunshine reflecting off the skyscraping monoliths of Manhattan. It hurts. It aches. But after so many months of waiting, after the wound of Roy's MIA status had been ripped back open over and over, the final, terrible grief of his death tastes, in some small part, like relief. They know. They're no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. Jason hates that he feels like he can breathe again. It feels like inhaling shards of glass, but he's no longer suffocating all the same. Diana spends the next morning fielding questions about Neal's absence, with vague excuses, until her boss is the one to ask. Where's Caffrey? Hughes asks, standing at the door of his office. Another department head had come up a few moments before. I told him not to come in today, Diana says. What? Why? Someone came in last night and delivered some kind of bad news. It looked pretty bad, so I sent him home and told him not to come in today. My office, Agent Berrigan. Hughes orders. What do you mean it looked pretty bad? He asks when they're inside. Special Agent Anderson from Counterintelligence sits inside in one of the chairs. Diana sighs. I mean, he had a screaming match with Oliver Queen that I overheard, and apparently someone is dead. Neal just stopped. He's devastated. So I kicked Queen out and took Neal home. I told him to take a couple of days off. Oliver Queen. Neal Caffrey knows Oliver Queen personally, and you sent both of them away instead of questioning them about it. You should have looked into it, Agent Berrigan. Anderson frowns. Look, sir, I heard the words debris field and atmospheric re-entry, and figured that since there haven't been any missing astronauts or exploding shuttles on the news, it's something I'm probably not supposed to know about. Anderson leans back in his chair, pensive. Who's dead? He asks. Did they say? Not outright, Diana answers. She pauses, remembering how Neal had collapsed into that chair like a puppet with its strings cut. She recalls her training, the hours spent memorizing chains of command and information custody. She trusts Hughes. She does not trust Anderson. Counterintelligence does all sorts of things she's sure are shady that she's even more sure she does not want to know about. Diana Berrigan is incredibly loyal to her job and her country, and two of her superiors are asking her for information she has. If she suspected even the slightest bit that this was an actual matter of national security, she would tell them. But Diana was raised in the most difficult-to-read rooms in the world, and she's beyond literate in the language they're written in. This isn't a matter of national security. This is a matter of Neal Caffrey. A quiet voice in her mind whispers, Jason. She ignores it. She knows they're just looking for Neal to be involved in something. Everyone in the damn building has been waiting for the other shoe to drop since the news of Neal's commutation hearing made its way around. Everyone is waiting in anticipation for him to fail. It practically drips down the walls, the desire for Neal to prove to them all that they were right about him, that people can't change, that the committee was making a mistake, that they hadn't been wrong about how they've treated him. While she doesn't see the same desire for Neal to fail in her two superiors, she does see the same anticipation. They're expecting it. Neal Caffrey's next great mistake. Diana remembers a boy at an event once. He was older than her, probably a young teenager, but there weren't many kids. He'd done his best to keep an eye on the rest of them. The lot of them had ended up hanging out in a side room, an exuberant game of Go Fish played in 4 languages between 11 kids who were excited about the hors d'oeuvres, but were getting really tired by the time the clock was ticking past 11 towards midnight. It doesn't take a genius to connect the dots between Oliver Queen and a dead man named Roy. Lian's hair was an awfully unique shade of red-orange gold. Neal has a 9-year-old daughter. A 9-year-old daughter who, if she puts the pieces together right, she knows she did, has just lost her actual father in a truly horrific, incredibly classified military experiment or operation of some kind. The only mistake Neal made this time was falling in love. Would they hold it against him? Who he'd loved? Diana wishes she could confidently say that no, they would never. Unfortunately, no one is in a better position than she is to know with absolute surety that they would. They didn't say any names, just he or him. Diana tells Hughes and Anderson, and gathers her courage and loyalty for the next part. With all due respect, sirs, I feel that this is a situation in which I do not have answers because I do not have the clearance level to access the information I did not intentionally receive. Hughes frowns and turns from her to Anderson. There are rumors, Anderson says after a moment, about Queen's involvement in some very redacted files. Hughes nods, once, slowly. You're dismissed, Agent Berrigan. Hughes pins Anderson down with a stare as soon as the door shuts behind Agent Berrigan. What do you know? Anderson stares back. The younger agent may have had a far more renowned, illustrious career, but Reese Hughes is a force in the FBI not to be reckoned with. Start talking, Agent Anderson, he orders. What do you know about Caffrey? I've let this go on for long enough. 8 years ago, the head of counterintelligence begins, settling back into the chair. I had a command in Cork. Small base, pretty remote. It wasn't supposed to be very active. There were a lot of mercenary types around. We didn't get to make all the calls about them. We get this kid in one day. Young guy. Kind of tall. The textbook description of nondescript. Except for his eyes. You'd never seen a green like it. He came in with a group, but didn't really stick with them. Kept his head down for a couple of weeks, did his job. And boy, what a job. The skills that kid had. Terrifying. Cold-blooded. Never saw him in action, but what he could do in training, I was glad of it. He shakes his head. What had happened before he got there was a sort of an uprising. There was a band of rebels going around, working up against their government. Then we figured out that their leader isn't local. It's an American guy. Nobody's got a clue who he was. Finally, they all turn on each other for some reason. Never found out why. And the only one who walks away from it is the American. He's captured by their government and lined up for execution. I ask if we ought to know anything about it. The order was no. The next week is when those new guys come in. It's all normal for 2 weeks. Then one night, we get an alarm at 2:47 a.m. There's an attack on the prison that they had that guy at. We take roll. Green Eyes is missing. He was the only one. I know it was him, Agent Hughes. I have no proof but my memory, but I know it was him. Anderson looks him dead cold in the eyes. I saw the reports. I'll never be able to forget them. He carved a bloody swath through that prison and dragged whoever that man was out hours before they were supposed to execute him. I never heard or saw of him again, until he walked through the lobby on my first day in this building. How do you know? Hughes demands. How can you be so sure it's the same person? Well, for starters, he practically admitted it. He can keep his alleged for legality's sake, but it doesn't change what he said. Deny, deny, deny. He knew who I was. I knew who he was. And for seconds, Anderson leans forward. He got your Agent Burke out too, didn't he? Dick, Tim, and Cass take turns dropping off food for the next couple of days. They're apparently keeping Oliver Queen away as well. Jason waits until Jade has come to collect Lian, and then calls his brother. Let him come, Tim. I have words for him. It isn't half an hour before he hears heavy footsteps on the stairs. Jason takes a deep breath, polishes his already steel nerves, and opens the door. If you think, Oliver Queen, that Lian is going with you, then you didn't know a damn thing about your son, and you don't know a damn thing about me. Just let me see her, please. The two men stop their tirade short. They stare at each other. Jason takes in the California millionaire's disheveled hair and clothes, unkempt beard, and the desperation in his bloodshot eyes that plead with him from dark-circled eye sockets. He hadn't really seen the other man's state before, down at Federal Plaza. He sees it now. Jason sighs. The fight he'd prepared, leaving him with one breath. You'd better come in, then. Where's Lian? Jay just picked her up. Why would you? She's lost one parent. You want me to deny her the comfort of another? Oliver slumps, shaking his head. Jason offers him a chair at the table. So, the older man starts awkwardly. You and Roy. Jason briefly contemplates taking a beautiful swan dive off his own balcony. Yes, he swallows. Roy and I. Why didn't he tell me? Oliver whispers. You've never approved of our friendship, Jason points out. Why would he have opened himself up to more of your censure? He doesn't regret the lie, but the way the older man's face crumples is nothing short of heart-wrenching, even to Jason, who prides himself on being a heartless bastard. They were trying before Roy left. Oliver was helping move Lian into the boarding school. Roy had started spending more time in Star. They'd wanted to fix things, even if they hadn't been sure how. Now, they wouldn't get the chance. What do I do now? Oliver asks after a few more awkward minutes stretch in silence between them. Your city needs you, from what I hear. Star City is in shambles. Dick mentioned something about the Flashes helping out. Dinah's fellow birds of prey were chipping in, too, pulling them back from the brink. It's not an excuse. It isn't. But it is a reason. I know. He presses the heels of his hands into his eyes. God, I know. I can't do this without him, Hood. How do I do this without him? He's always been there. It's been 20 years. Jason. He corrects him softly. Just call me Jason. You're asking the wrong person. How do you do this without him? I don't know how. I don't know if I can. It's not Jason's place. It isn't. Oliver Queen isn't his father. He isn't his father-in-law either, despite the deliberate assumptions he'd led the man to believe. Jason isn't the son this man has lost. But he sees him. He sees desperation, the abject misery, the shards of grief that permeate the broken man before him like a shattered mirror reflecting Jason himself. And all he can remember isn't the years of animosity that have corroded his respect for the man before him. No. All he can remember is that God-forsaken Chevrolet that now sits in a garage in California, and charity shop blankets strewn across the bed of the truck after they'd lost the tent somewhere east of the Rockies. All he remembers is how soft Roy's voice always got. Just the two of them, 3 hours west of nowhere. The warmth of the archer's shoulder against his, telling each other things they'd never spoken aloud. I still just wish he was proud of me, Roy whispers against a backdrop of empty highway. I'm nothing to be proud of now, but that kid he picked up from a mall, he deserved it. He tried so hard, Jaybird. I always tried so hard. But there are some men who learn a lesson only when they stand next to a grave. Oliver Queen has had 20 years to learn. 20 years and multiple children. So much time. We're going to be holding a service. Just family. The older man invites quietly. It's just going to be an empty grave. What's the point if it's an empty grave? Jason Todd knows a hell of a lot about graves. He knew Roy Harper better than anyone else on Earth. Jason isn't sure that Lian should go. He can't go anyways. But they're her family, and maybe she needs them. What he's worried about is how much more he thinks they need her than she needs them. Lian doesn't need to be the catalyst they use to remember her father. I want to forgive him, Jay. I just wish he were proud of me. Jason doesn't trust Oliver. He isn't going to let the man take Lian. But maybe he doesn't have to keep him away. Jason stands up and retrieves 2 brown bottles of ginger beer from the fridge. Oliver takes his with recognition and 2 shaking hands. Where did you find these? There's an old candy store up in Washington Heights, Jason murmurs, retaking his seat. I'll ask Lian if she wants to go, he says. It's her choice. Everything has been. She could have gone anywhere safe, but she wanted to stay here. Is she happy? Oliver asks. Her father's dead. She's devastated. I meant before. Was she happy here? Jason wants to say yes, but he doesn't know. It's been months and months of waiting, hoping, trying. Could any of it really be described as happiness, with Roy's status looming like an axe over their heads? And yet, at the same time, there were moments. Snowy days and ballet class, and trips to Paris and Moscow. Dancing in June's ballroom, trying a new food, simply making dinner together. Maybe they weren't happy. Maybe they couldn't be truly happy. But there was still happiness. I think she's done the best she can in the circumstances, he finally says. She started taking ballet. You should see her dance. When they have the recital, you should be there. Be proud of her, Oliver Queen. She's trying so hard. Learn. He's alone, for the first time since he got the news, when Oliver leaves. He thinks about a lot of things. The distance to the nearest liquor store is pretty close to the top of them. He can't bring himself to go. He ends up on his balcony instead, empty-handed and silent. He moves finally when it starts to rain. but not back inside. The balcony isn't enough. He climbs to the roof. He thought he would spend more time up here when he first moved into June's flat. There's always places, when you move somewhere new, that you never end up visiting the way you thought you would. He thought he would want the unique solace only rooftops have ever offered him, but the balcony had turned out to be enough. Rooftops were for Jason Todd. Balconies could be for Neal Caffrey. But Neal Caffrey is Jason Todd, and he can't hold himself together anymore. This is the point, lying flat on his back on June Ellington's roof in the pouring rain, where he shatters, concealer washed away by New York's acid rain. This is the point where Neal gives up. Jason Todd, though. Jason's from Gotham. New York's rain is practically sweet in comparison. Jason's not ready to put himself back together yet. That's for tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, and the rest of his life, because from now on, there's always going to be a lot of pieces missing. But Neal Caffrey isn't missing any pieces. So Jason lets the rain dye him with misery, and New York City's torrents wash Jason Todd out of Neal Caffrey's vintage suit and Italian tie. Jason's in a million pieces, but he can put himself back together. He shattered the mask of Neal Caffrey piece by piece as well, fracturing each time Jason takes another blow. But now he needs it, so he stitches Neal Caffrey back together. He's lost the line between actor and character somewhere in the last 2 years. He draws a new one. What are masks and characters, if not the screams behind which the actor hides? Neal Caffrey can be whole long enough for Jason Todd to put himself back together. The show goes on, Jaybird, he tells himself. You always knew it would be a tragedy. He spends the night on his back in the rain, and when the clouds stain with a dreary morning, he gets up, climbs back down to his balcony, takes a shower, and puts on a black suit. There may not be stars, but at least there's a sky. Jade brings Lian home for long enough to pack. She's decided to go to the family service. Jade is taking her. Blessedly, they've chosen a weekend. Jason spends it blackout drunk and cursing the stars above him, damning the very concept of outer space. And then he cleans up and puts himself back together. There's no trace of what happened when Lian comes home. It's the day before his commutation hearing, and everyone is giving him space. Overall, it's a quiet day, and it extends into the evening. He's grateful for that. Almost everyone he works with had stopped by his desk on the way out for the night to wish him luck, even though most of them aren't testifying. It's a kindness he wasn't expecting. Peter's frantic banging on his door in the middle of the evening is not exactly what he was expecting either. "Neal," he says breathlessly. "Neal, you've got to run." Jason immediately pulls him inside. "Were you followed?" he demands, and strides for his balcony to pull the curtains. "What's the threat?" "Kramer's got it," Peter warns. "Kramer's got the Raphael." Jason blinks, his flurry of activity coming to an abrupt pause. "What Raphael?" "Damn it, Neal. Now is not the time to play ignorant. He's going to find it. He's sure of it. You have to run." I don't know what you're talking about, Peter. What Raphael is he gonna find? The one you stole from the National Gallery. What? I didn't steal the Raphael from the National Gallery. You mean St. George? Yes, I mean St. George. You didn't steal it? No, I didn't steal it. Jason slips his phone away, canceling the emergency text he'd sent to his siblings. You're telling the truth. Yeah, I'm telling the truth. I think I'd remember snatching a Raphael. What's this all about, Peter? The agent drops into his couch, running a hand through his hair. He's got something on you, Neal. And if it's not the Raphael, then I don't know what. Unless I'm being framed, I can't think of anything. Jason sits down on the coffee table. Would he do that? I wish I could say no, but I don't know. Peter replies. He's determined to get your work release transferred to him and make you work in DC with art crimes. That won't happen, Jason assures him. I'm not going to DC. He's not likely to give you a choice. Peter takes a deep breath and looks him dead in the face. I'm serious, Neal. You should run. I'm not running, Peter. I have a life here. Lian has a life here. We aren't leaving. He'll try to send you back to prison if he can't get you to work for him, Peter warns. Oh, I'm sure he'll try. Jason smirks. He's got no idea what he's up against. Jason wakes up the next day to a barrage of semi-coherent messages from their family channel about Cass dancing the lead role that evening, stepping in as the understudy. A bunch of them will be coming to the show. That might be good, if Peter's old mentor tries to kidnap him or something equally dramatic. Jason is the last person to meet with the committee. Kramer hasn't shown up. Maybe he should be more stressed. He just has so many more pressing things in his life to fret over right now. It's weird, speaking to the committee that holds his theoretical fate in their hands, because it's just that, theoretical. Jason isn't actually Neal Caffrey. He isn't actually serving a prison sentence. But their decision will actually affect his life. Jason refrains from shifting around when they finish their questioning and whisper a bit, shuffling papers and looking at notes. He's unsure if they're done or not. I can't help but notice that you've neglected to mention your daughter, the chair of the committee says, looking up from the notes. Jason's blood runs cold. Excuse me? Your daughter. I believe her name is Lian. Jason wrestles his panic back beneath his skin and stares at the committee, realizing a beat too late that they're expecting an answer. Yes, that's her name. Yes. Every character witness that's spoken on your behalf has had a glowing recount of what a good father you are. The panel member to the chair's left recounts. Except for you. I try to keep my personal and professional lives separate. Jason deflects. Please, tell us about your daughter, Mr. Caffrey. He was not prepared for this. Everyone has taken their turns testifying when Jason is finished. There's still no sign of Kramer. The committee has deliberated and is almost ready to announce their decision. Jason invites Peter to come with him. The two stand in the hearing room, awaiting the verdict when, lo and behold, Agent Kramer and 3 other agents march in with a white art transport tube. Neal Caffrey, you're under the arrest for theft of... Hang on, Jason interrupts, twisting to hide behind Peter. "You can't just arrest me on a random charge with no evidence." Kramer wordlessly opens the tube and unrolls the canvas inside to reveal Raphael's St. George and the Dragon. One of the committee members gasps. Jason sees Peter stiffen up in front of him. "So you're resisting arrest as well?" Jason crosses his arms and raises an eyebrow. "As far as I'm concerned, you have nothing to arrest me for." "So the fact that I recovered this painting from a unit registered in your name is nothing, then?" Jason stares at Kramer. He turns to look at the committee. Their faces are stony and serious. Kramer is wearing a winning smirk. "You're joking, right?" he asks Kramer, then turns back to the committee. "He's not serious." "Is he serious?" "Unfortunately, Mr. Caffrey, this really is quite serious," the head of the committee replies. "How is it? I didn't even try to sell it." "Theft is, in fact, a crime all on its own." "Theft? It's literally mine." "I believe the National Gallery of Art would dispute that, Mr. Caffrey." "The National... I didn't take it. I made it." "Are you claiming that this is a forgery you've made?" Another member clarifies. "It's not a forgery. It's just a copy," Jason replies, still confused. The committee turns as one to look at Kramer. The agent from Washington stares at Jason, then back at the painting, and back at Jason. Finally, he shakes his head. "It's an interesting defense, at least, but that's not a forgery." "Again, not a forgery. Not even an attempt, but a copy." Jason looks at Peter. "Peter, is he being for real?" "This is serious, Neal." He looks so disappointed. No, he's beyond disappointed. Peter looks devastated. "Of course it's serious." Jason stares hard at everyone in the room, one by one. No cracks show in their stony expressions. "You actually stand by that, Agent Kramer?" Jason asks him. "You've thoroughly examined the painting, and you stand by your findings that that painting is Raphael's 1505 painting, St. George and the Dragon?" "I do," Kramer responds coolly. Jason laughs. "Incredible," he says. "No wonder you're so desperate to force me to work with you. This is our nation's foremost expert on art crimes." Kramer takes a step forward. Peter hisses, "Neal!" in a scandalized voice. Half of the panel looks confused, though they hide it well. Several members are frowning, but in thought rather than consternation, looking back and forth between Jason, the painting, and Kramer. "Do you have a response to Agent Kramer's accusations, Mr. Caffrey?" "Absolutely." Jason grins, sharp and cat-like. "Agent Kramer," he asks, "what material is that painting done on?" "It's oil canvas." "Exactly so," Jason agrees, then goes in for the kill. "It's a perfect replica of the original." He pauses. "Except for the fact that St. George and the Dragon is a panel painting." Checkmate. I win. "The painting was one bump," Jason thinks, sitting outside the hearing room. Everyone who's spoken is waiting outside in tense silence for the committee's decision, which has been delayed, now, by Kramer's interruption. Peter is quietly explaining to the others what happened with the agent from DC, who has thankfully scuttled off to who knows where after they'd blocked his attempted arrest. Them bringing up Lian was another. What's the third? Things always go wrong in threes. Ruiz strides up the hallway. Number 3. Jason almost laughs. The organized crime agent stops breathlessly in front of Jason. You cut the anklet, he demands. Why didn't you run? Seriously? Why didn't I run? Peter was dying, Agent Ruiz. He was bleeding out beneath my hands in an abandoned building with the people who'd shot him banging down the doors trying to find us. I triaged his gunshot wound with my shirt and our neckties. You think I could have run? Your freedom is not worth a man's life. He cuts him off. Not Peter's, not anyone's. If you hadn't destroyed the tracker, you both would have been found sooner. Maybe. Or maybe they would have seen it and known I was the CI. Maybe they would have just taken Peter. I dropped the gun when I got hit in the shoulder. They could have killed me right there and then. I don't get it, Ruiz says, frustrated. You could have been free. I will be free, Jason counters. In 1 year, 11 months, and 4 days. No, the head of the committee interrupts, stepping out into the hall. Jason's heart sinks. Now, actually. What? Congratulations, Mr. Caffrey. Your sentence has been commuted. What? There are stipulations, he continues, as if Jason isn't standing there, 6 feet and 2 inches of wrong-footed surprise. You are no longer required to wear a GPS tracker. However, you will be required to remain within New York City until July 1st. Peter Burke is no longer your sole direct handler. The responsibilities now rest within your entire team. Nothing else changes but the 2-mile radius. You said you care about your daughter having her life uprooted? He stares Jason down. Prove it. Jason nods wordlessly. Bruce had said he'd take care of it, but honestly, Jason hadn't actually expected for things to go his way. The rest of the committee congratulates him and leaves. Ruiz has slunk off at some point. Jason blinks back to reality when his friends who had testified on his behalf finally swarm him. Peter's never looked so happy or proud as he hands Jason the key to his ankle monitor. Jason answers with his own grin and lets it sink in. July 1st, he thinks. July 1st, and this is over. July 1st, and I'm going home. No more radius. Elle laughs as she gives him a hug. Where are you going to go? Lincoln Center. Jason replies immediately. Lian's aunt is dancing the principal role in Giselle tonight. We're going to the ballet. Cass is radiant on stage. Jason sits in a row with Stephanie, Tim, Lian, Babs, and Bruce. Lian's eyes reflect the glittering beauty of the ballet, glued to her seat the entire 2 hours. Steph briefly leans a head on his shoulder. You did good, she whispers, gazing at Lian where she sits ensconced between Tim and Babs. He rests his cheek on the top of her hair. He's almost forgotten how much he misses the rest of his siblings until he sees them again. July 1st, he reminds himself. Thanks, Blondie, he whispers back. The applause Cass receives is deafening. July 1st, Bruce says, after the show when they're crowded outside the stage door, waiting for Cass.
Is it enough time to finish your mission? Someone else can be planted.
No. Jason shakes his head. I can do it. I can finish in that time. I'm seeing this through. Peter and Neal work together for the first time since the incident the next day. He's not fully recovered, but Peter wants to be there, so he goes into the office for a few hours in the afternoon. He has the secondary duty of getting Neal home at a certain time, but the younger man doesn't need to know that yet. They do paperwork, and both men pretend that nothing has changed. Neal is different. Peter doesn't know if it's the weight of his new freedom, or his actions with the cartel, or something he's missed in the long weeks of his absence. Peter's always watched Neal. Peter's job is to watch Neal. But he can't shake the feeling that the man who sits in the passenger seat on the way uptown is not the same man who sat in the very same seat on the way to an abandoned elementary school. Their surprise party is a success, based on Neal's reaction. The surprise part of it, at least. The former con man hadn't been expecting a celebration from them. Elle and June had put up decorations, and the friends that both women had gotten a hold of had all come. Peter and Neal are the last to arrive, opening the door to a shout of, "Congratulations!" Neal smiles and laughs and fields well wishes and slips into the role of host, even though it was a party they were all throwing for him. As the evening quiets, Peter finds himself on his balcony, looking over the city. He really does have a marvelous view. Neal can never know, but he's right. Peter is a bit jealous. Just of the view, though.
You lied about the painting,
Peter says, joining him.
During the hearing, when you said it was a perfect replica of the original, except that it was on canvas instead of board. You lied.
He pauses.
What was the lie?
Why do you have to steal all my fun, Peter? Neal complains, leaning back against the edge of the balcony. It's not a perfect replica, he confesses to Peter. There's a mistake in the undersketch, and another in one of the scales of the dragon.
Only you could be disappointed that a painting that fooled the nation's most certified art expert has an invisible mistake in the underpainting.
Peter laughs.
Oh.
He reaches into his pocket and hands Neal a 20.
What's this for? Ellen, I saw Les Miserables,
Peter explains. Neal's smirk turns knowing as he tucks the money into his own pocket.
Do you hate me?
He works up the courage to ask a few moments later.
No. You're free,
Peter says.
You know there won't be any repercussions.
Neal shakes his head.
I don't hate you, Peter. But do you hate yourself? I was doing my job,
he replies, confused. Neal looks over at him with a smile that Peter doesn't understand.
So was I,
he replies.
Come on, Peter. It's getting cold. You're always cold,
Peter complains, and follows Neal back inside. He doesn't forget the look on Neal's face.
What are you doing here?
Jason deadpans when he enters his apartment after work to find it all full of plain-clothes superheroes, most of the current and former Teen Titans scattered around the room. The news has spread. Bart fidgets, standing up from his seat at the table. Jason turns away, slipping his shoes off. We thought we'd come by and see how you were both doing, Donna explains. He hasn't seen her in years. She doesn't look any different.
Oh.
Jason says.
Lian isn't here. Sorry. She's with Cass. We brought casseroles,
Connor Kent offers. He's standing in Jason's kitchen with a baking dish.
Ma said it was the thing to do. Thanks,
Jason says.
Just, set it on the counter, I guess. Sorry, just let me change real quick.
He gestures to his suit and disappears down the short hall to the bathroom to hide in his closet.
Pull yourself together,
he scolds. And he's doing that. He's doing a great job of that until he hangs his hat and Roy's baseball cap is there, hanging on the wall like...
Hey,
Dick whispers, stepping inside with Tim.
You good? Peachy.
Jason's voice cracks.
I can send them away,
Tim offers, closing the door behind him.
No, it's fine. They're trying to be nice, for his sake. It's just fucking casseroles. Casseroles like a goddamn war widow.
Well, Dick trails off.
Is it far off? Because, according to Oliver...
You said, Tim scowls, you said you were business partners.
Yeah, well, I fucking lied, Timothy.
Who are you lying to? Jason smiles, a mirthless, grim smile.
You, them,
he says.
I lied to all of them.
I call bullshit, Dick says. You told me you were in love with him.
Maybe I was faking it.
Bullshit, the oldest repeats. You're no crocodile. That was all real.
I have a great idea. It's called, Why Don't You Both Fuck Off and Leave Me Alone?
Neither of his invading siblings move.
Fine. We weren't anything more than friends. I'm lying to everyone about our relationship because otherwise they wouldn't let me keep Lian, and he once told me that he didn't want Oliver to raise her. There, happy, and also you were in love with him. Yeah,
Jason sighs.
That too. But your wording's all wrong. There's no past tense here. I think I'll love him until the day I die.
Yeah, okay. I'm kicking everyone out, Tim decides.
Don't.
Jason shakes his head.
I'm okay, T. I've got this.
They both look at him for a moment. Then Dick nods, and they leave him. He finishes changing quickly. It doesn't do to keep guests waiting. He checks the mirror before stepping back into the main room. He pauses before scrunching his hair out of its carefully gelled waves. He misses his curls. He'd permed it for this role. He hasn't seen the white stripe in years, with all the dye. Most of the Titans won't even realize it's gone. They've probably barely seen his face since he was 14, the new Robin tagging along with his older brother. Maybe it's time he got to know them again. He pauses on the way out to press a kiss to the brim of a worn red baseball cap. He's afraid they'll all stare at him and try to talk to him and offer condolences or something equally terrible when he steps back out into the main room. But they don't. He slips into the kitchen and sets the kettle to boil, joining Garth and Donna's conversation about the most recent Met Gala and pulling out cups for tea. He has to use 2 different sets. He's never had so many people over before. And it's nice, he realizes. It's nice to be 26 in an apartment full of friends. Yeah, they're Roy's friends, and they've all had bad history and falling outs, and some of these people haven't talked in years. Some of them hadn't talked to Roy in years. Yeah, they're only here 'cause his best friend is dead. But they're here. He thinks Roy would have liked that.